Welcome to the continuing adventures of side character and Grogu. Kind of, anyways. Well, do they have an adventure in this episode? Do they? Literally?
They sort of meander about at a very leisurely pace, honestly.
I mean, we go through the adventure one time where Mando gets his ass kicked by every obstacle in his way, and then Womxn comes around and does the adventure flawlessly, whilst Grogu just kind of watches.
So, in this episode, the Mandalorian goes back to Mandalore, and as he's going back to the planet, he's ambushed by some monsters who beat the absolute dog piss out of him, but he manages to beat them in the end, but, is severely beaten up because of it. Then gets captured. Then Grogu has to go and contact Womxn to save Mandalorian because he's just a helpless, character who can't defend himself. And she goes through the same thing that he went through. Fights 3 dudes, instantly kills them with no problem, looks like a badass while doing it. Fights the guy that captured Mandalorian, the robot cyborg dude, saves him, and then, does everything he does, but better in every conceivable way, and nurses him back to health.
Yes, and then leads Mando to his goal, the Living Waters, which he totally required that assassin droid from first episode to do. But then he required the MacGuffin, then he couldn't get the MacGuffin, so he just gave up on that.
And so he just did it anyways.
Yes, it turns out he didn't need to do any of that, because Womxn could just lead him to his goal anyways. Okay.
This story is all over the place. Like, so much for all that crap in the previous episode. I gotta get this droid, gotta use him. Like, nope, don't need him. Worthless. Scrap metal, honestly.
And okay, so let's take a step back from the non-existent story, because frankly not a whole lot happens in this episode beyond Womxn does job.
Yep.
This series, okay, the very first episode of The Mandalorian, I was actually fairly happy with the very first, not this season, but season 1. I was actually quite happy with it. You saw Mando, he went on a bounty hunt, he was just an uncharitable little asswipe, he took, had no mercy whatsoever, he was just a cold bounty hunter. Then he found Grogu, and instantly you were like, oh, I see now. This is what turns Mando into a, good person, quote, quote, TM, trademarked. Do not copyright.
It also sells merchandise, don't worry about it.
That as well. And ever since, he's never gone on a single bounty hunt. Like, he doesn't do that anymore. Now he is just Grogu's dad. He is literally It is Grogu and side character. That is what this story is.
Oh, it sucks too because it's so boring to watch. Like, the dialogue of this show can be summed up if you looked at the script as Mandalorian talks to Son while Son goes like saying annoying noises all the time.
Mandalorian pretends to talk to Grogu. Grogu responds with there you go.
Yep. Grogu responds with nothing and just nothing of substance. It's just not very good. This episode was actually painful to watch. Not because it was like badly written, it was just boring. I mean, I guess that is bad writing in its own right then.
The issue is that there's nothing to really engage with, because the Star Wars universe at large is just being deconstructed here. The Mandalorians are pointless now. Womxn has explains to us throughout this entire episode that there is nothing particular about being a Mandalorian. Like, the living waters were pointless, that was all just a lie, it was a show put on for the peasantry, taking off your helmet is no big deal, it doesn't change the fact that you're a Mandalorian. He's like, oh, Mandalorians must know chart, says side character to Grogu, and Grogu's like, Grogu knows chart? Does that mean Grogu Mandalorian? Yes, Grogu.
Grogu Mandalorian now. Mandalorian Jedi. Because of course. This episode was just a slog. And it does feel like they're deconstructing everything. In this episode, they have a sequence where he goes to visit some mechanic lady in Tatooine, and there's literally just nothing but references everywhere. There is literally, the droid they go to get, the astromech, is R5. And if you're familiar with Star Wars, in the first movie, episode 4, A New Hope, R5 is the droid that Luke Skywalker and his uncle bought that broke down, and that's why they got R2-D2. So it's like, oh, look, member berries scattered everywhere.
Well, the thing is, okay, the mechanics shop, right? The mechanics shop, very simply put, is literally just Galaxy's Edge from the Disney theme park. That is what it is. It is a theme park attraction. It has the things, the things. You remember the things. Look, this is a thing you remember. Look, this is like a blue alien. Oh, look, there's Jarvis over there. Oh, and this is the astromech, you know.
Yeah, it's this astromech from the first movie. Oh my god, and now he's useful and he's a character. Holy shit. Like, I went to double check on the wiki, and there's already a post saying that like they're updating the wiki because there's new lore for the fucking goddamn throwaway side character thing that was there to break so that R2-D2 would be chosen instead of R5.
And
like, that is all that thing did.
You have another Womxn, who's of course perfect. Like, she speaks blue alien, she speaks fluent Jawaiese, she can fix everything, she's got the astromech that Mando needs, and the worst, the thing is she's just some random old lady. That's all. She's got a perm from like the 60s. She's missing a goddamn tooth.
Yep.
She's not particularly interesting. She's just like, hey, I am scripted character. Character who knows everything. That's me. I'm that character. And it literally does feel like the entirety of the Star Wars universe has just been removed. It has become a theme park ride. She is the theme park character. When you're a child, right, and you're walking through Disneyland, and you see the stormtroopers, and you can talk to them, and they're like friendly, like, yeah, little Jedi, you're like, yeah, isn't this amazing? Look over there, it's a toy fighter. Oh, that's Star Wars now.
Yep. It's just one big giant, like, merchandise ride. And that's what it feels like. It feels like there's no soul in this show. Not to mention, like, was the plot of today's episode just not interesting in any way?
It didn't have a plot.
Well, it has the husk of one. Like, the big antagonist of today's episode is a nameless cyborg alien that has kind of a cool design. That's in a spider droid and can detach himself, sort of like the Thing, and like attach himself to other droids. That had no story. He's just killing Mandalorians for no reason and drinking their blood.
Yes, he wants to. And the thing,
I don't even know if that's what they're doing with the blood, even.
What are you? Who are you? Why are you here? How did you survive here? Are you here for a purpose, a reason? Like, did you come here? Are you stuck here? Are you some kind of weird indigenous alien species? I'm like, no, I'm here to be antagonist, to get my ass beat by the actual protagonist, Womxn.
Yep, I'm here to make Mandalorian look like an incompetent buffoon so that the Womxn can just save the day. Like, it didn't do anything. It was like, wow, okay, so they build up this enemy, this antagonist in this episode for 30 minutes. I counted, by the way. And by 37 minutes in, it's just destroyed and there's like no story to it. It's like, oh, it's gone. It's like, okay, but like, what was the point of those 37 minutes besides just procrastinating?
Humiliating Mando was the point of that entire thing. And
well, they succeeded.
It just continues, it deconstructs the setting even more because, okay, the Mandalorians, they're this kind of warrior cult in space, right? They've got a code, they've got rules, they've got traditions, they've got a lot of meat and weight to them, they've got a whole mythical universe. And the entire point is, no, I used to rule this. I was the queen of the Mandalorians. I was the queen, McQueen. And all I tell you, it was all pointless. None of it was pointless. It was just a show for the peasantry. That was all. And she even goes on to say, like, oh, Manta, you haven't eaten pork, pidge, plop soup, or whatever the hell she called it. Well, that makes you not a very Mandalorian person, does it?
Every young Mandalorian eats this, don't you know?
Yeah, don't you know?
And then when they get to the ritual place, she's like, oh, and she starts mocking and making like a tour guide thing, like reading a plaque, like, this is the famous place where something happened. Like, oh, like, it's very, degrading towards the Mandalorian, like, culture. It's kind of weird, like, that they're just doubling down on the kill it if you have to mentality when it comes to the past.
It reduces all of it. And then we get the Watcher in the lake, because Mando walks into the lake, and he's taking it seriously. Like, he's reciting the creed because he wants to be redeemed. And the thing is, she keeps going like, there's nothing magic about the water. He doesn't think they're magic, woman. He's not like, oh, there's going to be fairies that crawl up my asshole and then I'll be redeemed. No, it's a tradition. It is a code. It's an ethical framework. And you do it, you imbue these things with value as well. Like the Pledge of Allegiance, for you all goddamn Americans out there, right? It's not magical. You're not actually pledging undying allegiance to this flag. It's not like you're going to throw yourself in a grenade for a piece of cloth or anything like that. But it's an institution. It is an ideology. It is an idea that you're pledging yourself to. It gives weight and gravitas to it. And in return, that weight and gravitas becomes something that matters to you. It becomes a symbol. It's the very same idea that, of course, the Romans figured out with the eagles and Napoleon copied. Once the golden eagle of the Napoleonic troops of the Roman legion, it's not magic. Nobody thinks it's goddamn magic. It's an idea. Oh, God. I hate having to explain this because it sounds stupid when you explain it, because we live in a godless society, and this is good. But things must have meaning. We can't simply deconstruct everything, because if we do, there is nothing left.
There's nothing left to care about. It's like the whole idea behind the Mandalorian and all these ritual and the creed is if they deconstruct the creed, then what makes a Mandalorian is that, well, you say you're a Mandalorian and therefore you are one. So yes. There you go.
Which is probably what they're heading towards, because it's like, oh, you can be a Skywalker if you want to.
We're all just Skywalkers now. Buy the t-shirt, please.
And he walks into the lake, and he just sinks, and, he forgets that his helmet can be turned airtight and shit. He forgets that he's got a breathing apparatus and all that. Maybe it's mounted in his backpack, I don't know. And so he just sinks like a rock, and so Womxn must save him again. And she does. And then they see, the Watcher in the lake, who's like, hello, I'm from Lord of the Rings. Oh, wait, Star Wars.
I'm a Star Wars product now.
And
buy my toy.
That's probably gonna be the storyline now, that she's like, oh, that's the mythical animal that I wrote about on the poster. It wasn't a mythical animal, it was just a really dumb, stupid fish.
Turns out they're just peaceful fish, and we were just, killing them for no reason, because it didn't even hurt them. They're sleeping. Just like,
it'll probably be that, she goes down there and she decapitates it or something, then she brings the head up to the surface and goes like, I'm the Queen of Mandalore now because I killed the Minotaur. Worship me.
Worship me now.
And then she'll rebuild Mandalore. That's my prediction right now, that they're going to rebuild the Mandalorian society, and they're not going to be around in any future, Star Wars properties, because they were totally peaceful. They did this in secret. It's like, this time we will live in harmonious unity with one another. None of that pointless fighting.
Our culture only, got ourselves destroyed. Now we need to change and become extreme pacifism. That's sort of what they did in the Clone Wars TV show, where Mandalore was just extreme pacifists all of a sudden, and then there was extreme militarists. It's like, so they're just extremists. That's all they are. It's just not very interesting.
Again, in the last episode, we talked about how this show needs a reason to exist. And it really just doesn't have one. It feels like it exists for the reason of existing, and because it's popular, and therefore it exists.
It can make money, and it's the only IP they have that hasn't completely tanked. So, under the Star Wars franchise. So, because it's the only thing that hasn't absolutely imploded on itself yet, they're going to keep kicking the horse, so to speak, until the money stops coming out.
Well,
that's what this is.
That is certainly one way of doing things. Might even be an effective way of doing things. Oh, God. You know what? I'm going to make a prediction right now.
Yeah.
The last episode of maybe this season, maybe the next one or something, when she has become the Queen of Mandalore, all of the other Mandalorians are going to show up and they're going to get down on their knees like the good beta cucks they are, and they're going to take off their helmets.
Oh, my God. They take off their helmets into a super symbolic scene where it's like, we've changed our culture.
Yep.
We've removed what made us Mandalorians, and now we're just generic
Now
nobodies.
We can be new Mandalorians under our Quan.
McQueen. Oh, that's terrible.
That is my hyper-pessimistic prediction here. But remember, I have a 100% track record for predicting taking off of helmets.
That's sadly true. Gosh darn that Halo TV show. That's what gave him that percentile.
Yes. I do remember that because it was like first episode he takes off his helmet and calls. No, they wouldn't do that.
They wouldn't do that, and then they did it, and I'm like, I'm going to hurt you, Arch. I'm going to bring you up. Oh my god, that was cringe. And they just keep doing it. Now here, fortunately, they haven't actually taken off his helmet. For a second there, I was worried they were gonna when he got the little can of soup, but he didn't.
I've never been so happy to see Pablo Schreiber's schnauzer.
Oh god, quit bringing him up. This is Pedro. Tell Pablo. Pedro is a new best friend. Pablo is old. No longer friend.
I mean, I would be rather impressed if it goes the complete opposite way. And basically what happens is that Womxn learns that, oh, no, tradition actually has value. See, the mythical being did exist. Wow, there was a reason for all of this. And then she puts on her helmet and goes like, yeah, Pedro, Pablo, Mexican person.
You guy. I can't remember your next
understand now.
See, that would be a better.
Something. We do need a framework.
That would be a better direction to go. I would be much happier with that. But this episode is, in my opinion, kind of irredeemable. It was just not good. It was a slog to get through, and it just made the Mandalorian look like an absolute wimp.
Well, again, it's because they need to establish Womxn as main character person now.
Also, I've got one big final complaint. Blasters in this show so far, I hate them. Like in the first episode, they just shoot that giant monster with blasters. Okay, whatever, doesn't hurt it. In this episode, they use blasters twice, and both times they do nothing. Like they're basically useless weapons.
Well, I guess you could argue that Womxn is wearing a plot armor, and so she can't be hurt with electricity.
Yeah, she's just fine. She's just like, I don't care about being shocked.
That poor little head crab thing. It's like it was just living its life there. You know, being happy, hunting those creatures from H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. And then she ambushes him and like kills him. Like, wow, why? You wanted your boyfriend back, you could have just asked, you know? I didn't necessarily need him.
I was just like, it honestly looked like he was collecting his urine. I think they were implying that it was blood, but
that's
the
weird.
jar was,
weird looking blood, my dude.
It was yellow. Okay, like what am I supposed to guess what that is?
What? This is the trick. He was actually friendly. He was pumping the poison out of Pedro.
He's helping him. He's like, I'm trying to save you, but you know, because he can't talk because he didn't make a speech device for his machine. He just got murdered.
Yep.
Oh,
like totally innocent all this time. Like, Pablo was infected with some virus or something, or he was bitten by one of the animals from the time machine. And like, I'm gonna fix you.
I'm just trying to I just want to help. Died.
Poor headcrab robot. It was the true hero all along.
He tried to crawl away, but didn't get very far.
Yep. One of his robot bodies was killed, and then the other robot body was killed, and then he died because, you know, that was...
he decided to give up. He's like, I mean, can you blame him at that point? He's like, all right, I don't want to rebuild all this stuff. I'm just gonna die. Because he never actually gets killed. He just like, I guess I'm dead.
Poor head crab.
Head crab, yes.
He kind of looked like crab.
You don't. He's just a little crappy, okay?
Again, much the same as the first episode. I wonder if this has a reason to exist, and it has yet to give me one, so onwards and upwards, I guess.
On to the next episode.